Greetings, unsettled souls, and welcome to the Correct Views. Sam I. B. Gangi doing political commentary for the Media Speaks. Look them up at themediaspeaks.com. Friends, I want to get right into it. I got news on Russia here. I have a huge issue with this Putin worship that we see everywhere. Let me tell you where the Putin worship comes from. The Putin worship comes from the fact that many Americans have woken up to the fact that Obama and Bush before him were terrible presidents. As such, because Putin is against Obama, and we know the grief that Obama has brought into the world, then somehow Putin is good. That doesn't make any sense. That's like saying because your neighbor to the left of you is guilty of breaking out your car windows and stealing your car stereo, that the neighbor beside you who beat up your son for no reason whatsoever, raped your wife for no reason, not that there would be a reason, that came up poorly, raped your wife. He's your friend, right? He's a good guy. Why? Because the other guy, he's a thief. So that means you're like the other guy must be great. Doesn't make any sense. The point is, many people do not trust President Obama. And some people have pointed that he had CIA connections. We know for sure Bush did. You don't trust the CIA? Well, we know. It's a matter of record that Putin comes from the KGB. The KGB has always hated America. They hated Gorbachev and they hated Reagan. Okay? Putin was going to hate America even if we'd have elected Ron Paul. Why? Because Putin is from a mindset that is anti-America. Just like you could argue Obama is, just like you could argue Bush was. There's very few people on the side of America. I'll give Donald Trump that. He is. Or at least he talks well. This, friends, is becoming a bit much, is what I'm trying to say. Please stop with the Putin worship and realize that there is plenty of room in this great big world of ours for more than one person to be truly evil at the same time. If you doubt me, then go ahead and look at your loved one. Christelle and I bicker all the time, constantly. I'll tell you what, one thing we don't want to see this happen to each other. Okay? Look what dear Putin has for us. Michael Snyder, Economic Collapse. Russia's new nuclear torpedo can create giant tsunamis and wipe out entire coastal cities. By that, I would mean David Lake. I would mean Giselle. I would mean Anthony Court. I mean a whole lot of people. While the eyes of the world are on ISIS, Russia is creating weapons unlike anything the world has ever seen before. Plans for a giant self-propelled nuclear torpedo that can create a giant tsunami more than 1,000 feet tall were recently leaked by mistake by the Russian media. How tall is that? It's hard to put into words. How many of you have been to Cedar Point? The top thrill dragster, one of the best coasters to ever be built, is 420 feet tall. This would be a wall of water the length of the American coast. That is over twice as tall as that coaster is. Okay, does that put it in perspective? It's a lot of fish. Apparently, the warheads on these torpedoes are designed to create so much radiation that everything living will be killed, including those that try to survive the attack by hiding in underground shelters, which we've covered here. Many of the elite have been doing for quite some time. These robotic mini submarines would have a range of up to 10,000 kilometers and would be able to evade all existing U.S. detection systems. So much so that a weapon would be a game changer, it says. It would be a massive understatement. Game changer. I know that you are not just going to take my word for this, he writes. So, like I do in all of my articles, I am going to carefully document what I'm saying. I can relate to that because many of my listeners doubt what I'm saying. That is why I spent the money that was donated to me to buy fact cams so that you won't question what I'm telling you. The reason why we know that the plans for this nuclear torpedo exist is because they were displayed. Supposedly, it was an accident. It said secret plans of a new Russian nuclear torpedo system, this is from the Independent, have been shown on state-controlled television in what the Kremlin said was an accident. A close-up of a confidential document detailing Ocean Multi-Purpose System Status 6 was broadcast for several seconds by Channel 1 Russia and NTV during coverage of a meeting between Vladimir Putin and military officials. And the writer asks, could it have been possible that the accident happened on purpose? Here's my question for you. If you have a bonfire in your own backyard, Greenpeace is telling you that you're causing global warming. Yet Vladimir Putin can threaten to detonate a nuclear weapon that would wipe out America, and that would kill the animals too, PETA. To wipe out, not a word, absolute crickets, nothing happens at all. Nobody, that's not against the environment. No. Billy Bob, nobody having a backyard fire, though. You're warming the planet. Arrest him. Why does this Russia warship exist? Are they getting the job done in ISIS? Yes, they're doing a great job. That doesn't mean that Vladimir Putin is a good man. Okay, privately, he might be. I understand him to be an Orthodox Christian. But I'm sorry, he's a crappy, threatening leader. It says, without a doubt, this kind of weapon would keep military planners up at night. According to RT, this new nuclear torpedo is designed to create extensive zones of radioactive contamination that would ensure that no military, economic, business, or other activity would occur for a very long time. What do they mean by that? They mean that it's so radioactive that it would cause machines to shut down, such as we saw in Fukushima. This would be like having a Fukushima that stretched down the entire coast. It'd be like living in the reactor, for instance. You'd be dead in no time at all. In addition, Konstantin Sikov of Russian Geopolitical Academy told the BBC News that this kind of weapon could be used to create a tsunami 1,000 feet high. The writer states that, as I've written about previously, a whopping 39% of all Americans live in countries that directly border the shoreline. 39% of the country. The detonation of just a handful of these weapons could wipe out the entire East Coast and kill off a very substantial percentage of the U.S. That's over a third of us, friends. On top of that, the BBC is reporting that a state-run Russian publication is suggesting that these new torpedoes could be fitted with extremely radioactive cobalt warheads. It's called a cobalt bomb, no surprise there. It would be the type of thermonuclear warhead with a layer of cobalt-59, which on detonation would be transmuted into a highly radioactive 60 cobalt that has a half-life of longer than 5 years. For those of you that don't know, a half-life is half the time it takes to decay and the beginning of the time that you can even begin to want to be near it. Such a weapon would guarantee that everything living would be killed. That includes the animal lovers and their animals. I'm an animal lover too. I'm making fun of PETA. The paper said there would not even be any survivors left in bunkers. The cobalt bomb has never been tested because of the deadly radiation that it would really unleash. In other words, it's so deadly that nobody's ever been able to test the science behind it. They just know. They know exactly how this breaks down, and it's so deadly you can't even test it. You simply have to use it. Again, they forget about the jet stream. They forget that it's going to carry it right back to them. It would take a couple of years for Russia to pay for it because it's the other side of the world, but it would get there, just like Chernobyl got to us. Worst of all, we would have no advance warning that these torpedoes were coming. They can be launched from anywhere. They reportedly have a range of 10,000 kilometers, and they are designed to avoid all acoustic tracking devices and other traps. Now, this is the part that scares me the least, and I'll tell you why. I'm pretty sure our military can track these. I'm sorry, it says no, there's no way to do it. And I believe that the writer that wrote this is correct. I do, because we're looking at existing data. But our country's not going to let their ace out that easily. Would we be able to stop all of them? No, but I'm pretty sure that we would be able to spot some of these upon launch. On the diagram, the giant torpedo's range is given as 6,200 miles and depth of trajectory as 3,300 feet. It was developed by Rubin, a submarine designer in St. Petersburg. It would apparently be launched by nuclear-powered submarines of the 09852 Belgorod and 09851 Khabarovsk series. It would avoid all acoustic trappings. The frightening part of this is we have had Russian submarines up on our coastlines that we didn't catch right away. And we know that Russia likes to provoke the U.S. Do you realize that Putin called Obama on the 4th of July, congratulated him on the birth of the country, and then promptly invaded our airspace to try to provoke him? Please don't tell me that trying to trigger World War III just to play a joke on the ruler of another country or try to prove some might is a good idea. That could have triggered World War III. Okay, well, we do it to them. I don't care what hat evil is wearing. It's still evil. It says these nuclear torpedoes take the game on an entirely new level, and this is not the only new weapons that Russia has, and it lists other ones. Well, let me tell you something. This is something that I thought it was important enough to lead with. And it's something that you want to show people when they start sticking up for Putin too much. And there are good things about the man. His orthodoxy, his work in ISIS, the way he has just trampled that evil has been wonderful. Again, there's enough room for them both to be evil. ISIS takes evil to a whole new level, even for both the US and Russia. But I'll say this. When you come from the KGB, you come from a line of people who come from a mindset that believes that it's possible in some way to win a nuclear war. And that's where Putin's from. It's that simple. Gateway pundit Kristen Taylor shock poll: third of Syrian refugees are ISIS sympathizers. That is 13% support. Oh, you got to let the refugees in. All right, look. God forbid, and it could happen, Davis-Besse nuclear power plant was to melt down. It would be very important for Nancy and I to get out of here quickly, very, very quickly. Why? Well, because the fallout from that is going to create a living environment that is toxic. If I had to go to Mexico, and again, I'm in Ohio, so you wouldn't have to go that far, but the analogy won't work if you don't do it this way. If I had to go to Mexico, I would expect to be vetted. I would expect to have my background looked up. I would expect to have to learn the Spanish language within a year. I'm not Catholic, but I certainly wouldn't walk in there ranting anti-Catholic slogans on their street corners. I would have a little bit of respect for the fact that something has caused me to leave my country, and a little bit of respect for theirs. I would not be sympathetic to the nuclear power plant industry. Well, that's what you're seeing here. The people that are leaving ISIS, 13% of the refugees admit to being ISIS sympathizers. You don't find a problem with that? It's 1/3 sympathetic, 13% support, to be clear. A poll released in November, but ignored by the mainstream media, shows 1/3 of Syrian refugees do not want the Muslim terrorist group ISIS to be defeated. Well, why don't you want them in your country? You must be racist. No, I just don't want to be shot. I don't want to be killed. I don't want my family bothered. I don't want to go to a concert and have some barbarian with a handgun shoot me down. I don't care what color he is. I just rather he didn't do it. The survey results buttress concerns by the dozens of U.S. governors who have announced opposition to President Barack Obama's plan to import 10,000 Syrian refugees over the next year. Well, yeah, because a third of them are sympathetic to ISIS and 13% hope they win. Let's have them over. That'll be great. Ohio, Governor Kasich, do me a favor. If you're in Ohio, or wherever you are, call your governor. Let them know. Do not accept any refugees here. Call out the National Guard and the local militia if you have to. Do not let them in here. This is ridiculous. I have no problem with us. What do I think you should do, Sam? You want them to die a miserable death, don't you? No, I don't. I don't want that at all. Do you realize that NATO controls a third of Syria? NATO is made up of your sons and daughters, your brothers and sisters, and moms and dads and aunts and uncles. Americans, along with other countries, have spilled a lot of blood to secure a third of Syria. There's no ISIS there. It is secured by NATO. The blood of your countrymen. Why in seven hells don't we move these refugees back into the safe area of Syria? Not back where they came from. Into the NATO-controlled section of their own country. No, let's bring them across the world to the United States and put them in the middle of a culture that they don't understand and will hate when they do. That's a terrible idea. No, I don't want them to be slaughtered. And this is going to piss off every libertarian listening. I'm about to lose all my libertarian subscribers. I would be in favor of our government paying to make sure that these refugees are safe. And I know that's the most unlibertarian thing you've ever heard, but I would. It's fine. Get them safely to the NATO-controlled section of their own country so that they are not slaughtered, raped, or otherwise butchered. That's fine. Even if it costs $1 billion, that's fine. I get it. Especially since we helped cause the problems there by nosing in the first place. This notion that you're going to bring them into the country is ridiculous, friends. Moving on. This is a story that keeps coming back. TechLA.com. Again, Jack the Ripper, DNA expert, maintains he has solved the history's most notorious serial killer mystery. Now, over and over and over again, people keep coming up with proof of who in the hell Jack the Ripper is. This one looks like it's probably going to be the last time that you hear it. Now, I don't know that it is because, again, it's like a boomerang. Every time I feel like Arg should be on the show again. Jack the Ripper, DNA expert, maintains he has solved history's most notorious. All right, let's see if he has. An error of nomenclature. Those are the words used to dismiss claims made last year, which I was just talking about, by a British businessman Russell Edwards, that he had solved the mystery of Jack the Ripper's identity once and for all. But Dr. Jari, I just had to do a bunch of English stuff with my band. You do not start a sentence with but. However, but Dr. Jerry Lowenleiman, the scientist Edwards recruited to help him ID the Ripper, stands by his work, telling Techley he has nothing to hide. In September 2014, Edwards announced with great fanfare and a book to sell that he had DNA evidence that Jack was actually Aaron Kosminski. Remember that? I covered it here. If you don't remember it, then hit subscribe because you're missing shows. Kosminski was one of the prime suspects of the day, and his incarceration coincided with the conclusion of the murderers in London's Whitechapel were credited to the Ripper. How many of you didn't know the band Whitechapel got their name? Edwards had purchased a piece of cloth found next to Catherine Eddowes, one of the Ripper's 5 conical victims. Some claim that Jack was responsible for 11 in total, but there's 5 that they're sure. It says the suspicion that the cloth had in fact been placed there by the Ripper himself as a clue as to where he would next kill. Edwards enlisted Dr. Lolalainen, a historical crime scene expert, to examine a piece of the cloth. Lo and behold, the doctor found more than just blood on the cloth. He also discovered semen, which means that Jack the Ripper is one of those weird people that got off as he was murdering somebody to deepen the creepiness of the very rotten but historical person of interest. Again, a lot of people know I follow I watch serial killer documentaries and stuff, but I'm not one of those people that call themselves a fan of them. As in, I like them. It's a fascinating topic. Edwards enlisted the doctor, a historical crime scene expert, again found the semen. It was found to have been identifiable DNA, and by mapping it, a picture emerged of a dark-haired man, Russian Jewish ethnicity, a decent description of Kaminsky, who was a Polish Jewish immigrant. A descendant of Kaminsky's sister donated a cheek swab DNA sample for comparison and achieved a 100% match. So it looks like it's the last time you're going to hear this on the Correct Views. But Jack the Ripper keeps coming back, so I'm not gonna say anything carved in stone. It says, in Ripperology, we're talking about so naturally people come out of the woodwork left and right and center to dispute the work. The big one was a piece published in The Independent where experts with detailed knowledge of the GMI's mtDNA database said the doctor had made an error identifying the common 135.1C gene mutation as the rare 3.14C mutation, which I guess is a very easy error to make the way it's worded. However, when asked about this error, the doctor told Techley that his single aspect hardly disproved his work. The marker you are referring to is one of the mitochondrial DNA holotype markers were analyzed for one of the matches, he wrote. Unlike the independent claims, the DNA profiling never relies on one DNA marker. However, they forgot to mention this. It says again, however, the forensic professionals, of course, understood that we have the full halotypes of both victim and suspect on the same piece of physical evidence. And the experts at the Independent spoke to apparently dismissed the work. Plenty of others have been eager to learn more. So there you go. Jack the Ripper. It won't go away. It looks like this time we may have had some kind of proof here. Maybe. But it goes on. The peer review process was planned when we expected the interest to tone down. That was in late October, I think. In fact, we now have been booked for more forensic events through May of 2016. So it goes on, friends. It goes on. It looks like this time the DNA is finally going to finger the right man, as long as they can make sure that the DNA was done properly. And it's a topic of interest. Okay, we talk about ISIS and beheadings and Russia wanting to nuke people. Sometimes you got to lay off on that, or you're going to, or you know what I'm saying? You got to lighten up. We lighten up with Jack the Ripper on the Correct Views. All right, friends, you are listening to TCV. You can donate to the show at thecorrectviews@hotmail.com. Every penny you give to me goes to Bear Awards, a better show, by things like Fact Cam, which you see behind us. StickerJunkie.com, sponsor of the show. If you go to StickerJunkie.com, take them your sticker design. We're about to do just that as our band was picked up. We are going to go ahead and we are going to take our stickers to Sticker Junkie. Now, what you want to do is you want to type in the Correct Views or Correct Views in the promo code. You, when you do that, are going to get a special savings just by letting them know you heard about it here. Friends, moving on to news that doesn't surprise me except for the fact that I thought it would take a lot more than this. This is from thesun.co.uk. Diet Coke heart risk. 2 a day raise the danger by 25% of having a heart attack. Not good. Even as a rum drinker, have decided maybe it's, even though it's not healthy, Red Bull might be the better direction to go here. At least there's vitamins in it. Just 2 sweetened drinks a day can dramatically raise heart risk, studies show. A couple of glasses of pop may increase, and not just Diet Coke, that's just the one they use, all pop. A couple of glasses of pop may increase the danger of heart failure by 1/4. That's 1 in 4, scientists believe. The research in Sweden was hailed as very interesting by UK reports and is the first to make such a link. It is not the first to make such a link. It's just the first to make such a link at such a low quality. The findings cover drinks made with sugar and those containing sweeteners, such as Diet Coke and Pepsi Max. I guess that wouldn't make Red Bull much safer. We could do sugar-free, though. Experts found men who have 2 daily servings of 23% more likely to suffer heart failure. Scientists at the Karolinska Institute in Sweden, for those of you see FactCam, I'm not making this up, tracked the health of 42,400 males 12 years and over, and warned the findings may also apply equally to women. This is interesting because Christelle drinks those. She quit drinking pop, which is good. Well, not quit. She drinks it a lot, but she's slowed down. Replaced it with these poisonous sweet teas that have 28 grams of sugar per serving, and there's 2 servings in it. You might as well just eat sugar out of the bag like a horse in an oats bag at that point. They quit selling it at the convenience store, so she now buys it in industrial strength jugs. I saw this study and I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. I drink it when I'm craving it. At work, I'm allowed to drink out of the gun if I want to. I'm allowed anything that's not alcoholic because I have to talk every 3 minutes. So I drink coffee, not copious amounts, but usually a couple cups. I drink cranberry juice is what I had today. I did have a Red Bull and didn't have any pop. Sometimes you're craving pop. When I'm craving pop, I go ahead and have one. But this all the time drinking of pop that seems so prevalent in our society and world today is absolutely toxic. You shouldn't do it. It said soft drinks have previously been linked, of course, to high blood pressure, diabetes, and stroke. Dr. Gavin Sandercock of the University of Essex said this study is very interesting. It shows there is no difference in the effects of drinks which do or do not contain any sugar. That includes diet pop. So the best thing you can do, I've been drinking, and I'm sure that there's dangers in everything. I've been drinking vitamin water and life water. I have seen them sold in organic food sections and organic food stores. And I had one very astute reader tell me that they're not true organic. Whatever true organic is, I'm probably missing it. It's probably something that makes something in it that's made from something GMO. But by and large, it's certainly a lot. It's not going to give you a 1 in 4 chance of keeling over from a heart attack. I can pretty much say that, I think, with a level of certainty. Guys, we have not one, but 2 dumbdees of the day. And you guys know that we do 2 dumbdees of the day when we get overrun by them. What is the dumbdee of the day? Dumbdee of the day gets you ready for the dunce cap of the month, which Christelle still hasn't mailed, but we're going to. We're very behind this month. The dunce cap of the month. Every month. You can look them up online. I'm all over my channel. The dumbdee of the day leads you up for the dunce cap of the month show is what it is. And sometimes, very often actually, the dumbdees come in waves. And social justice warriors, you can always count on like 1 every other day, if not more. But as our dumbdee music, we have 2 dumbdees today because otherwise the dunce cap of the month show is going to be so big that I couldn't possibly do it all in one sitting. The last one was like an hour. Stupidity is really that extent today. Louder with Crowder. I think it's the first time we've ever had them on the show. Welcome aboard. Women hired by FDNY despite failing all physical tests. This is where political correctness goes from silliness to getting somebody seriously killed or hurt. I'm a reasonable person, it says. The best person for the job matters more to me than their skin color or gender. But I understand why having a diverse workforce is a nice idea. We are all in the world. We are the world and all. Still, you would think that they would at least be able to do the job. You know, Like when the FDNY hire that needed instructors to fudge results, all in the name of diversity. This is your fire department here, friends. Never achieved a passing score of 17 minutes and 50 seconds for the functional skills test, a course of job-related tasks in full gear, such as stretching hoses and dragging dummies, according to an FDNY source familiar with the training. She did not come in under 24 minutes in practice tests. She also failed to run the required 1.5 miles in 12 minutes or less. Even after the running course was slashed by an estimated quarter mile, she still didn't do it. So rather than fail her, no, they just lowered what was needed to get on. Do you want her coming to rescue you if you're in a fire? She was one of 282 court-ordered priority hire. 282 of these people. Priority hires that a judge commanded must get preference because of past discrimination. Yes, that is a real thing. This means that when you come to a life and death situation, when you need someone to drag your limp body from a burning building, when you need someone to dive back into said building to save your baby in record time, you may not get the best person for the job. Instead of a strapping, young, physically capable fireman, you may instead see a gender-fluid, pansexual bantamweight waltzing in to save you. That's why I send out dunce caps, friends. This is why I do the show, to expose stupidity. Most importantly, you may actually get somebody completely unqualified for the job at all, such as somebody that fails every test, like I just told you about. You may find yourself being served by someone who couldn't even meet the basic requirements to be adequate at the job because racism. Said, excuse me while I whip out my white chismail privilege, but is this how far we have gone with the social justice warrior political correctness? Really? Can we seriously not even agree that when your job revolves around saving other people's lives, the only requirement to be is you are the best qualified for the job? Strike that. How about being physically capable of said job? No. Political correctness is literally beginning to take lives now. My guess is that when leftists need a qualified firefighter to save them, and instead they find a bunch of butch-cutted SGB intersex hires on the scene, they'll change their tune pretty quickly. The other dumbdee of the day, Steve Watson, InfoWars, lightsabers banned at Star Wars movie screenings because they are simulated weapons. I am proud to say that I have gone to every Star Wars movie that's come out at the movie theater, I do believe. I might have missed one, but I'm pretty sure I saw all of them. Now, part of the reason that I had originally planned on doing this again, not to mention I'm a Star Wars nerd, as you can see behind me. More so Alien than Star Wars, though. Who's with me? But it's still Star Wars. When I was a kid, it was a big deal. Growing up, Star Wars has been one of those things where you can just nerd out for the night, geek out, whatever. I'm already nerdy enough that I do this show, so I might as well dress up like Boba Fett. I might as well make it official, So, I don't even know where to begin. Because somebody could bring a real weapon into the theater, you may not bring a lightsaber, because a lightsaber simulates a real weapon. Now, this is the kind of stuff you normally see in school, like the story of the kid that got suspended for cutting his Pop-Tart in the shape of a gun. You normally see this in school. Now it's splashing into the outside world. And of course, kids have been acclimated to it, so they don't find it odd. How many of you may not go, especially you with good sound systems in your house, how many of you may or may not go to see Star Wars? Because part of the fun is getting there early, seeing the people dressed up like stormtroopers, having the camaraderie with other fans. Now, I wouldn't care so much if they said that you weren't allowed to have a gun replica without having it gone over, without having it looked at. I have no problem with that. Even if they said nothing that looks like a gun. That's a huge mistake, because that just means if nobody's armed, then nobody can defend themselves, but I digress. When you start talking about lightsabers being banned, you have now gone beyond what is considered reasonable. For anyone, really. A leading cinema chain, do not go to Cinemark. They're the no fun place to see Star Wars. Don't go. Cinemark, I'm not afraid to say it, is banning people from bringing lightsabers to screenings of the new Star Wars movie because they resemble weapons. They are the third largest chain in the US. They've also banned moviegoers from bringing Star Wars blaster guns, because we all know that those are real. The announcement was added to posters for the film outlining that simulated weapons will not be allowed in the building. The chain has also banned face coverings and face paint, meaning that fans will have to leave their Darth Vader masks at home. You know what? I'm going to do my damnedest not to see this at Cinemark. I'm not going to promise that I'm not going to, but I'm going to do my damnedest to not see this at Cinemark. It is because of the Dark Horse shootings. This is ridiculous. A Dark Knight, excuse me. Ridiculous. AMC plans on enacting a similar ban. So you're going to want to watch out for AMC too. Friends, aren't we told that terror exists because they hate our freedoms? Then haven't the terrorists already won if you can't bring a lightsaber into the screening of a movie? Have we lost the ability of intelligence when we simply can't say, let's hire off-duty police officers? We're going to make enough money. It's Star Wars night. You're going to be able to pay for this just fine. Star Wars night, at least opening night, for crying out loud. Star Wars night, we have police officers that will check all weapons. They will stay by the door to make sure that you don't swap your real AK-47 for a fake one. We got people by the doors. We have off-duty police officers tonight. They're checking all your weapons. All of them. Even you, Boba Fett. All of them. That, while not necessarily the route to freedom, would be common sense to most people, whether they were for it or against it. I don't want to get into that debate. But we don't have common sense anymore. We have Junior can't bring a lightsaber to go and see Star Wars. That's what we have. Friends, you're listening to The Correct Views. That's the dumbdee of the day. You can donate, again, thecorrectviews@hotmail.com. Every penny you give to me goes towards a better show, goes to things like lighting, goes to things like cameras, and keeps the show going. Thank you, friends, for listening. Good night. God bless.